What is good, everybody? Thank you for tuning back into this YouTube channel. I still haven't decided what name I'm going to be using, so we're just going to name it as Anonymous at this point. So today, what we're going to be doing, because I can't seem to escape it in my feed, in my personal feed at least, is we're going to be talking about the Nintendo Direct, on how everybody think it was fantastic. It's 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. It's fantastic. It's not that I don't think it was fantastic. I just personally don't feel like this Direct was for me. It's like I almost relate it back to like these Smash announcements. It's like, okay, just because I'm not excited for this particular Smash announcement doesn't mean that I'm not happy for somebody who this announcement was for, essentially. And even though there was some good things that I did personally get excited for, the overall Direct I don't think was for me. But I think that's also what makes this Direct so good. I personally do actually rate it a full 9 out of 10, and I'll explain why I don't do a full 10 out of 10, because here, if you don't already know, we like to talk about like business stuff as well, not just the overall announcements, but the business side, the mentality, and all that. So yeah, I give it a 9 out of 10 because overall, this Direct was for a lot of different people. You had a lot of RPG games, I'm not going to lie, JRPG games on there, but you had a little bit for everybody when it came to your overall Nintendo stuff, your anime people, your Among Us people, you had a lot going on here. So there's just a couple that I'm going to be talking about. Again, if you want a full list of the announcements, I mean, I'm sure if you go to IGN, since they own majority of the gaming journalist landscape at this point, I'm sure there's a list there, but I'm just going to be hitting on a couple of different things that I personally want to talk about, especially talking about the business side of stuff. So starting off strong, right at the beginning of the Direct, we got the Mario and Luigi Brothership. I know a lot of people already say they want to call it Brotherhood just because probably of like just natural brotherhood, and not to mention Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. I don't know if that's a thing, but that was a very strong showing. A lot of people did not realize that there would just actually be a new game here. Everybody thought this would be entirely made up of remakes. Remakes, ports, whatever. And so the fact that we actually got a new Mario and Luigi game is fantastic. And I think what's even more fantastic, even though I still have beef with Mario and Luigi, because I do personally believe that the reason Paper Mario kind of took its detour towards Color Splash and Sticker Star was mainly because of the success of Mario and Luigi. So that's my personal headcanon. But no, it's fantastic that we not only got Super Mario RPG, we got Paper Mario Thousand Year Door remake, and we got a new Mario and Luigi game. So Mario RPG fans are eating this year, because it all came out within a year, which is crazy. So, but I think that also makes sense for it to happen that way, especially it being the last full year for the Switch. So it makes sense. So, the other announcement followed up by that, I think it's just more worth mentioning, is the Nintendo World Championship. The fact that they had to actually put some time into this Direct to announce that is, I don't think they're hitting their sales numbers as much as they thought they would. As I've talked to other people before, I think overall, it's not that I don't respect or enjoy the Nintendo World Championships. I mean, I think especially a lot of people that grew up around my age, like, even remembers the movie that was kind of based around it and all that. So, but I think overall, from a consumer standpoint, this is already a niche genre. And the fact that, yeah, you could just buy it for like, I think $30 or $40 and then do the full like special edition for about 60. And it just being so niche, I just don't think that there's a lot of general excitement, especially the last year for the Switch. So I think that's kind of the main reason why there's just not as much hype for it. And I think that's why they had to set aside some time to actually advertise a little bit more. So kind of business related, but just a little bit weird. Nintendo Switch Sports Basketball update. This game has been out for 2 years. This update is 2 years, I guess, removed from the original release, and it's just a little weird. We have seen this before when it comes to, I think it was Super Mario Party, for it to get like online capabilities. It took them about I think 2 to 3 years too. So the fact that this is coming 2 years afterwards, it's not exactly above the realm of possibility for Nintendo. It's just a little weird why we're getting it. You think a lot of people just assumed they were working on a Nintendo Switch Sports 2, and or like they were working on for something for the next Switch overall. But I mean, yeah, you got a free update. So if you're a fan of Nintendo Switch Sports Basketball or Nintendo Switch Sports, now you have basketball. Congrats. So the next big one, unless you're waiting for me to talk about the required farming game that was announced at this Direct, was Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. So it's the remake from the Wii, but technically I guess they're doing the 3DS version because it has all the extra levels. regardless, it's coming over to the Switch as well. Not until early 2025 though, which I thought that was kind of weird. But I think it also adds to the overall storyline of that, because I know there was a couple people I was talking to that was hoping for just a new Donkey Kong installment. But I think this makes sense because again, Retro Studios is still working on Prime 4, and we'll talk about that later, obviously. But the fact that they've set up all their resources for that in general, I'm just kind of surprised we're getting a HD remake overall. And the fact that again it's coming in 2025, it's not too surprising when you think about it, because again, if they did allocate a part of their studios to making this remake, it was probably a very, very small portion of it. And yeah, so it makes sense. I'm glad. Again, people were saying though, like, they shouldn't have called it Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. They should have called it Donkey Kong Country Returns again. Just lead into it. It's like, how many times can he come back? So I will mention it. Dragon Quest III remake was finally announced. I know that was a big thing because it was announced, 4 to 5 years ago. I could be wrong, and that could even be 7, right around Prime, I guess. So it was announced like 4 or 5 years ago, and then the fact that we're getting it, and I guess that's also why it took them so long, because then we also got the announcement of the 1 and 2 remakes were happening. They were coming out next year in 2025. So I guess it makes sense why it had taken so long for the remake, because I think in general they probably wanted to do 1, 2, and 3, because I'm gonna butcher this, the Raiden trilogy, whatever, the whole just storyline there. I think they probably wanted to make it canonical, but then since they announced 3 so long ago, and then they were working on 1 and 2, probably they were just like, well, we need to have some money back. Let's go ahead and announce and release 3, get some funding back for 1 and 2, and then we'll get the money from that. So. The other remake was Luigi's Mansion 2. Again, I think overall they needed some advertisements here, because they're not necessarily. It's not that they've done that all the time. Don't get me wrong. It's not like they've haven't announced games at directs that have already been announced and wanted to show a little bit more. But that's the thing. Both with the Nintendo World Championships and the Luigi Mansion 2 remake, there wasn't really much more that they showed. It was just like, hey, this is Luigi's Mansion 2. Please buy it. Like, that's all it really was. It wasn't anything grand. It really is looking like they're not adding any more to this. Like, again, with TTYD and even technically Super Mario RPG, it's just an upres. That's all it is. So you could call me a hypocrite here. I'm not sure. TTYD was fully okay paying the full $60 for it. Love that game, favorite game of all time, and they made some changes to it. Luigi's Mansion 2 remake, I'm having a hard time justifying paying $60 for it, so this might be one where it's just not going to be a day one for me. So I will note this just because it was kind of an interesting kind of play here, especially what wasn't there. We got updates to the expansion pass. We got A Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, 4 Swords, and then Metroid Zero Mission for the Game Boy side of stuff. That was cool. But then they announced the N64 17 Plus, which a lot of people had mentioned they would never do in the US, which they did. It just goes to show you that Nintendo has changed a bit from their overall mentalities. And so never say never, I guess, at this point, because especially, again, I never thought we'd see a TTYD remake, and we did. But I guess what was weird for a lot of people is they did Turok and Dinosaur Hunter, which I guess I was also in the majority there. I didn't realize Turok was rated M. And then Perfect Dark, which makes perfect sense with the Perfect Dark announcement for Xbox. It's in the ethos, perfect time. It's like, hey, you got the new Perfect Dark coming out, go buy a Switch. Again, all this is to help buy Switch, sell units, whatever. Come play the original Perfect Dark if you have no access to the 360 remake, yada yada yada. But I think, again, with how comfy Nintendo has gone with Xbox, it was kind of surprising that we also didn't see Original Conquer on here. And I wonder if there is some sort of either a licensing agreements with Conquer that I'm not realizing, whether it be music, I'm not sure, voice acting, I don't know, or B, if there's maybe new restrictions for censorship, because again, when you do the rare replay on the Xbox, they actually took away the ability, or not the ability, but they took away Banjo's head, severed as like a mantle, kind of, I forget what they're called, but when you kill an animal and you put him on a mantle, it should be a mantle, I don't know. That was Banjo in the original game, but then they took it out of the remake. So I don't know if there was something there where it's like, okay, well, if we have to censor anything from the original game, we're just not going to do it. I don't know. It's weird. So, but yeah, so it was just weird that we didn't see Conquer. But yeah, I mean, at this point, that means we might see more 17 plus games. There's this really obscure game. It's called something Tanks that I'd love to see on the NSO. Would it ever come? I don't know, because it has some weird music on there, but it'd be cool to see. So, and again, mentioning how this direct is for everybody just kind of, I don't know, like melted when they found out that they were doing the Marvel versus Capcom Arcades Classic Collection, whatever you want to call it. I'm not looking it up right now. It's something like that. And that I guess Marvel versus Capcom 1 and 2 is finally out of jail, apparently. So a lot of people excited for that. However, this is going to start, again, when we start more focusing on the business side of stuff, is this was one of the first, but not only instances of, yeah, it's coming to the Switch, eventually PlayStation, eventually Steam, but no Xbox. And again, we'll talk more about it a little bit later once I flesh out the section for it. This one, for me, makes no sense for it not being on Xbox. The other ones I can make an argument for. This one is a little weird in that sense, but I guess, like I said, we'll talk about it later. But it was still really, really cool to see that, again, this direct was for a lot of different people. I mean, especially for the fighting community, who would have thought they should have tuned into this direct for like a classic fighting game. It's hilarious. But then to follow up with that, they did a new Super Mario Party. Now, I believe this one shouldn't have been a surprise for a lot of people. Kind of like in the sense of Pokemon with tradition is true. I believe they've done a Mario game every 3 years for the past 15 years, something like that. So this shouldn't have been a surprise that there was a Mario Party game at this direct. But I think what was a lot of surprise for a lot of people was, including me, we were expecting kind of like a mini game, just best hits type of game like they have for the 3DS. I think it was like Top 100 or something like that. So a lot of people were just expecting something like that, and it was going to be their just a budget title. This one was going to be the first maybe to even launch Nintendo Select titles at the $30 to $40 price range. But no, this was a full-blown Super Mario Party game, Mario Party game. Now, as much as I do criticize the original Super Mario Party versus Mario Party Superstars, I will take Superstars over Super Mario Party any day of the week. A lot of that didn't have to do with the actual games. I didn't mind the motion games. I think it was a perfect way to implement the technology you've put into the Joy-Cons. What I had problems with, which it seems like a lot of people do agree with me, is the boards and the item usage were very bleh. They're very like stale. And so this is what gives me hope for this one, because even though, yes, they're bringing an map for Mario Party 1, I personally like it, but I can acknowledge some of its faults. And then they're bringing another map for Mario Party 2, and they've announced these really, really big-ass maps just for the game in general, new maps. I think this game has a chance to succeed, to maybe even outsell Mario Party Superstars, because that, again, only complaint with Mario Party Superstars is that like they gave us a taste, but they didn't give us enough. We wanted more, and I think this is our more. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, Super Mario Party shouldn't have been a surprise, but it was a surprise how much we got. So Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. When I was actually watching the direct, I couldn't remember. It's like, what is this aesthetic? It's from that one game. It's Link's Awakening. I know that now. So, but it was interesting to see that Zelda finally is getting her own game. And it was funny because I was even talking while we were watching that, how the internet was going to react to this of like, oh, you give her a game, but it's going to be in Link's Awakening style. But no, people seem to be hype. In general, I think people also have a little lesser expectations, like a little bit slower gameplay than playing as Link. The echo mechanic should be interesting, the replayability, all that. But yeah, no, I think it's cool that Zelda finally gets her own game. So, and I'm going to make the joke, I'm going to drive it into the ground. It's about time we finally get to experience the Legend of Zelda, so. Lego Horizons Adventure. I haven't decided if I wanted to make a separate video on this or not. Like, I've already started it. I kind of just hit like a creative block, hence why I'm making this one. But so Lego Horizons Adventures, it was a big surprise with the announcement happening because it is a Horizon game, which is a PlayStation exclusive, quote unquote. But then they're making this Lego side of it, and that's only coming to Switch, not coming to Xbox. So a lot of people were just saying, wow, that's crazy. People were giving a lot of grief to Xbox porting their games over to other consoles. Yeah, you have PlayStation doing it. A lot of people saying that Nintendo's winning the console wars. That's kind of the topic of that video. It's something like, I won't get into that too much right now, but it's still pretty cool to see kind of the coexistence of these companies. But I think it's going to lead to some interesting changes within the next 5 to 10 years. So, Stray. What can I say about Stray? I blame Stray for every cat game that has been released in the last 5 years. Stray is an amazing game. I loved it. Loved every single moment of it, but Stray literally opened up the floodgates for everybody to make a goddamn cat game. Like I could literally, I work gaming retail, I could throw a ball at our gaming wall and probably hit like 3 cat games. It's ridiculous. So no, it's cool to see Stray coming to the Switch. I am also not holding my breath. I'm waiting to see how much they have to dumb it down for it to not explode the Switch. So I don't expect the same textures. I expect longer load times. We'll see what happens. So I've tried my best to kind of slow my roll on the ones like I'm really, really excited about, the games that I'm personally really excited about, but this is one I really can't like hide it. Ace Attorney Investigations Collection. That means Investigations 2 that has never been localized to the West is finally coming to the West. So it's kind of like the Great Ace Attorney 1 and 2 finally getting localized to the West. They're finally giving Miles' second game a localization in the West. I'm so excited for it. It's actually made me want to go back and finish Apollo Justice and the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles 2. I do plan on finishing those soon, but I'm so excited. Again, there's so many of these games that I've been able to hinder my excitement for. This is one I can't hide. I'm just super excited for. It's going to be super fun. So, okay, so Romancing Saga 2 Revenge of the Seven. That is one that, after we finish the last announcement, is going to be something I'm going to hit on, is yet another game that is not a Xbox release. It's not coming on Xbox. This one, again, I have my theories, and I think I'll be able to explain it, but compared to like the Marvel Capcom one, I just can't. So we'll get to that here in a second. And then last but not least, the one more is Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. It finally got its subtitle, Beyond. I think I'm in the minority. I was not impressed by the trailer. The pacing, the way it looked, kind of like those faded transitions, just didn't do it for me. And it felt like they needed to get the trailer out, so they just kind of put something together and be like, boom, here, see, it exists. We're positive now. Leave us alone. Like Silksong honestly should probably do something along those lines. But with me being removed and seeing other people's reaction, I do still believe a lot of people are just happy that this game exists and that retro has been wasted the last 7 years. So I think that's a part of it. And then I did go back to see the Metroid Prime Remastered reveal trailer, and I guess the reveal trailer seemed kind of like right there as far as like the pacing, the transitions, the whatnot. So overall, even though I still believe that this trailer was kind of rushed together because they just needed to get it out there so that way people would be happy and they would stop like badgering them, I think I was a little too harsh on it at the beginning. Now that I've kind of seen some like whatever it's called, like stuff in the past that makes sense in the future. I'm becoming dumber as I get older, so there's words that'll just like escape me, and as soon as I stop this recording, I'll be like, oh, that's what that word was. But yeah, so see, as soon as I stop recording, there was precedent for that trailer. So, man, I also didn't realize I've been recording for so long because I didn't even go over every single announcement, which is crazy when you think about it. But so then I am going to maybe chop this last part up into very concise points. So first part is just seeing Marvel vs. Capcom Arcade Classics, and then Romancing Saga 2 Revenge of the Seven. And I think there was one more, can't think of it off the top of my head, that are not coming to Xbox. The Romancing Saga 2 is weird because that is being done by Square Enix, I believe. And I know recently Square Enix has done a lot of layoffs, has done a lot of like reprioritizing, saying they need to get their games on more consoles, hence like because they weren't happy with the Final Fantasy VII remakes and how they were doing on PlayStation. Not to mention bringing Octopath Traveler over to the PlayStation and I believe Xbox as well. So it was weird to see that this one specifically was not coming to Xbox. Not so much that Xbox, was doing something on their side. It's weird on Square Enix's side not being able to bring it over to Xbox because they just stated recently that they wanted to get their games on more platforms. They wanted more money. Everybody wants more money. So the only two excuses that I could think that of reasons why this isn't going to happen, at least not right away, is it's another one of those dumb things that Xbox has the standard. If it runs on the X, it has to run on their S. And so for some reason, this game is not running properly on the S. Hence, they have had to delay it for the Xbox to make sure it can run on both consoles. And or the only other thing I can think of is that Square Enix on this game had yet another contract with either Nintendo and Sony saying, hey, you have to put it on our consoles and only our consoles, blah, 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 blah. That one's a little less likely because the fact that it was Switch, PlayStation, and Steam, and it just like excludes Xbox, it's just a weird contract to have. So I don't think it's a contract. Not saying it's not a possibility, but I think it's more of, again, the S and the X and all that other stuff. It has to run seamlessly on both, seamlessly, quote unquote. But because it doesn't, it's like, oh yeah, that's why it's not coming to Xbox right away. Marvel vs. Capcom in general, I have no excuse for, and I think this is why people should be concerned. In general, Xbox has been trying their hardest to really cater to not only Japanese developers, but as well as the Japanese market, try to get more sales there. And it's not going well because I actually even looked it up on Twitter the other day. And not to mention, you have the Capcom and then you have the that really long name of that game that I'm not going to repeat. Apparently it hasn't been the only one because there was also the great Ace Attorney Chronicles, which I personally got on the Switch because it came out physically. It only came out digitally for the PS4. But I didn't realize it did not come on Xbox. And then same thing with the Mega Man Battle Network. Same thing, didn't come to Xbox. And then same thing with Monster Hunter Stories. Did not come to Xbox. So there is some weird correlation there. And Xbox and with the Japanese publishers just not vibing. And you can't necessarily blame all of the recent, I guess, turmoil that Xbox has been going, even Microsoft in general, where it becomes the layoffs, all the restructuring. You can't really blame that because it's been happening for a while. So the only thing I'm thinking of is that Xbox, unfortunately, is essentially getting the Wii U treatment, is the fact that their sales are so bad that publishers are really just not finding a reason to put their games on their console. Will that be changing soon? Because it looks like after their showcase, Xbox is, riding a high right now. Will that last? We'll see. But overall, it was a little concerning to see that these games specifically weren't coming to Xbox. Besides that, the last thing that I want to really touch base on is what wasn't there and kind of, again, the business theory behind it. So, again, unless this leaker was lying, which I don't know if it was the leaker that essentially got exposed Drake style or whatever, but there had been leaks that Legend of Zelda, Wind Waker, and Twilight Princess are done and ready to go. They essentially just need to go gold, need to be published, boom, good to go, get them out to stores, you're good. And we didn't see them at this Direct. And it is also very much believed that this is the last Direct for the Switch, which, again, probably a great banger, a great swan song. We'll remember the Switch fondly. It got us through a lot, But if this is truly the last Direct for the Switch, I find it hard to believe that they would essentially treat Zelda like Metroid and just shadow drop these games sometime in February, March of next year. There would have to be a big announcement. And if this is the last Direct, that means we are not going to get Wind Waker or Twilight Princess for the Switch. It's just not going to happen, unfortunately. Now, a lot of people have said that if we weren't going to see Twilight Princess and Wind Waker on this console, you should just forget it. We're just not going to get it, or at least we're not going to get it as we expect it. I think there is one more chance, but I think the one more chance is also something that is positive but negative, if that makes sense. So everybody still doesn't know exactly why the Switch got delayed till next year, and we don't even know what time next year. They said early first quarter, but there's no guarantee. It could be second quarter, hell, it could be holiday of next year for all we know. We don't know. So, and there's been a lot of speculation, and my personal headcanon is that they wanted to make sure they had a good enough lineup to support the next Switch, to make sure that they had, systems rolling off the floor as well as software titles to make sure they maximize their profits. It's the other, I guess, reason why I think that Pokemon ZA, whatever you want to call it, I'm just calling it Pokemon Z at this point. I think that's the reason why that also got pushed out to next year, because this will be one of the first years in a while that we didn't get a mainline Pokemon game, like yearly, got pushed to next year. So that's kind of interesting too. But I think that also coincides with the Switch. I'm not saying that the fact that Pokemon got pushed back was the reason why the Switch got pushed back. I'm just saying Pokemon is a pretty big IP for Nintendo. It's technically one of the biggest IPs in the world. So again, headcanon, I'm just throwing it out there. But I guess what's concerning then for me personally, so then they probably want as many games for the Switch 2, Super Switch, whatever you want to call it. They want to make sure they have enough software to support the line for launch and throughout the rest of the year into the holidays. So then it would make sense that it's like, okay, if you have Wind Waker and Twilight Princess just ready to go ahead and throw that into the lineup. Make sure you have enough software to support it for its first full fiscal year. So it makes sense until you kind of peel back the layers and it's like, okay, so you're telling me you have this new console and you're saving remakes for your new console. Does that mean you have nothing else for your first fiscal year? I mean, everybody assumed there's probably going to be a new Zelda, a new Mario, and a new Mario Kart. So that's 3. And then there's still speculation on Smash Bros. I don't really want to touch that in this video right now. But if you are truly saving these remakes for the next Switch to help your first fiscal year, as an outsider, I would personally be concerned in the sense of that why have you pushed this back? And I say push back. We never got a date. We never got an official date. So it got pushed back, but it didn't get pushed back because we never had an official date. But from insiders saying that it got pushed back, you assume that you would have more software ready to go. But if you're having 2 of those software lineups be remakes, I'd be a little concerned in the sense of like, okay, so why is it so difficult to develop for the Switch? Or what happened along the way that you just weren't able to have as many either first party, third party, titles come in the first year. So you had to dig into your pocket, say, hey, okay, here are the remakes. This will get us through the first year. So personal headcanon, I mean, if we just never see Twilight Princess and Wind Waker ever, hey, it is what it is. Maybe they'll bring it to NSO, GameCube, whatever. People would be happy with that, I'm assuming. But yeah, it was a weird implication not to have it, but it's all based off if you believe the leaker. And if you guys have been on the internet for any amount of time I've been, I don't believe anything until like I see it in front of me, like it's tangible, it's physical. So all this theory is based off of somebody's leak that we can't even confirm is real. But if it is real, I think the implications are a little bit more devastating that we're taking into account for. So. But yeah, what did you guys think? I've been recording for a lot longer than I thought I would. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Standard stuff, like if you liked it, dislike it if you like it, dislike it. Engagement's engagement. So and subscribe if you want to hear more. I'm trying to build a little bit of a surplus of videos because I'm on vacation right now, so that way I can get back into the groove of like recording stuff. So there should be at least a video every week for the next month until my birthday, and then we'll see what happens after that. So. But all right, guys, thank you for tuning in. This has been me, as always, and we'll catch you guys later. Bye-bye.